Hi, I'm Brent Johnson, and today we are at St. Mark's Episcopal Church in South St. Louis. With me is Bob Mulgardt, who are the organist and choirmaster emeritus now,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
How many years were you here?
32 years here, with two other churches, 52 in all.
Wow, and you've been officially retired for a year.
Officially
You're
retired.
still here. You don't have to be responsible for the choir anymore, but you still get to play this wonderful instrument.
It is wonderful indeed.
Well, tell us about this instrument. First of all, who built it?
This is built by a young firm in Canada called Juget-Sinclair. It's a small company. There's only about 7 people, and they don't want any of a larger company because they have total control then over the quality of what they build. Everything here is hand-built by them. The keys, the draw knobs, the cabinets. The only thing that they did not make was the digital computer that runs the stop action. All the trackers in here, they cut in their shop.
So it's a mechanical action organ, 2 manuals and 20 ranks. And if I read correctly, this at the time was the largest organ they had ever built in their shop.
Yes, and of course now they've gone on to build some 3 and 4 manual ones, but still only 7 people.
This was their Opus 32. Mm-hmm. It's French in description.
It's a tiered stops, right? Instead of having draw knobs up here, this is kind of the key desk is tiered in the French manner. Sometimes they curve around. One interesting thing about this, that it's also digital, is the fact that you can get levels for setting all your combinations of stops. And we originally contracted for 60 levels, and we ended up with 400. It costs $12 more to put in the chip. So we have 400 levels, so recitalists, anyone can come in, they've got their own set of levels.
So it's electric combination action then, even
Yes.
though all the keys are mechanical.
Yes.
I want to talk a little bit about the instrument this replaced, just because it's an interesting little story in its own.
G. Donald Harrison, who was one of the classic organ builders, and it was a small instrument. It ended up with only like 9 stops. It was planned to have a lot more, but at the time, 1938, war years, things just didn't get finished. The instrument really was remarkable because the room is remarkable. I mean, you can hear that kind of ambiance. And so it did well for itself. Over the years, it began to deteriorate. And it was lacking some stops in here that really are useful when you're doing music with
You only
choir.
had 9 ranks. So you were limited.
That's
anyway.
right, that's
But I
right.
think I read a quote that Senator Emerson said it was the biggest little organ he'd ever heard.
Yes.
He's the guy responsible, of course, for the Atlantic City Convention Center, that giant organ, and worked with A.O. Lynn Skinner. So it's fascinating that he had an opinion about that little thing as well. So yeah, it does help. We only have 20 ranks here, but it makes quite a sound in this room.
It definitely
So
does.
let's just listen to some of the stops here to see what we've got. I'm going to start, we call it a grandeur because it's French, is that correct?
Yes.
So all of the stops are French, so our first stop is out here in the front, correct? This is our 8-foot mantra. So let's hear a little bit of
It's
that.
right up in that chamber there. And then there's an 8-foot flute à chemise, basically a chimney flute, which is absolutely to die for. Beautiful. Then we go into the 4-foot stops. I'll put that with a mantra. Ensemble, but there is a rather large 8-foot trumpet on this. So
Play just the trumpet by itself.
yeah.
That is a big trumpet, but then again, it is our grandeur trumpet in here. And it really
Yes.
packs the ensemble.
And you don't use that in ensemble. You use that on special occasions.
Play the flute, the 8-foot flute and the 4-foot flutes together. The flute over here, we have a 4-foot open flute in the grandeur.
the sound blooms in the building. We'll probably hear that a little bit later when there's more organ. But the room allows the overtones to just blossom. I don't know any other way to describe it. And that's very critical in putting in any organ installation. And there have been churches that literally restructured, rebuilt their church to accommodate and improve the acoustics.
So that's 10 ranks, and it's all on the left side of the
Yes.
left case. So that's half our organ over there. So let's go over here to the swell, or do we call it the racy?
The racy.
The racy.
Now, this division, when you have only 2 divisions, and they have to play off each other. So typically the swell is a softer one that has solo stops. What these organ builders did, and it was brilliant, is they made this division rather powerful to be able to work with the swell. So if you bring on the 8-4-2 4-foot principle, you bring on the Narzad and the tierce, it gets a nice sound. Hautbois or bassoon. So it's got presence. The other thing it has, which the other one did not have, is absolutely gorgeous strings. So I'll start them with the box closed.
Very French in color too.
Yes, yeah.
Let's listen to just some of the stops individually. That 4-foot flute douce, the nice, sweet, soft flute. I want to hear what that's. Could you use that as maybe a solo against the great even? Is it big enough to do that? Or?
Absolutely.
Voices that can be used as accompaniment. Yeah. So you have a cornet or a bassoon as your solo as well.
It does. You can put together a good cornet on this thing.
What does that sound like against, say, the great 8-4 flutes?
8-4 flutes. So.
Right. You can even use just the 8-foot there. Yeah. So you get a nice accompaniment. So,
and the combinations in this receive, I've lost track of how many different combinations that one can make to develop solo stops. That's part of the brilliance of good organ building.
Sure.
The secret is every stop must work with every other stop. And everyone who comes in says, this instrument can do anything I want.
That's true. You can, I'm thinking, even take something like the bassoon au roi, which is normally a solo voice, but color it and change it a little bit by adding, say, a 4-foot or a 2 2/3.
Yeah,
so just alter the voice a little bit.
Well, you can warm it up with an 8, brilliant it with a 2, give it color.
Sounds like 4 different reeds you've got in there.
I know. One of the interesting things that I didn't discover until late, and I would never thought of doing it, is using an 8-foot Bourdon with a Vox Celeste to make a solo stop.
Does that work? Sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes it does. But here it does. So what would you play that against if you were using that as a solo?
Oh, probably...
Swell is big enough to stand out then against the grate, and you can have all sorts of solo combinations. And we do have a tremolo up there. What does that sound like if we turn on a few?
floor, we have a 16-foot, very soft subas.
It's soft, but it's got a lot of presence in it too. You can still tell it's...
The room does beautiful things with that. Add that 8-foot principal with it.
That's more gentle than I think the pedal principal usually be.
Yeah.
So
And then a 4-foot octave, that really puts a little more punch. Stop that we insisted on is their wonderful trombone. You put that under a chord, it's thrilling.
So the builders originally had planned to put a reed in the pedal? Is that the truth?
Yes, they had, and looking at just the whole process in that, it was. Some folks were kind of leaning, we don't need that, and we said, no, you need that.
This organ came with some design considerations that make it a little unique. First of all, where was the organ originally, the aeolian Skinner? Where was that placed?
The console sat exactly here, the choir was there, and the organ was down low, about half, almost more than half the height of this one. And it was right in the back of the choir. So when you opened up the swell shutters, the choir got it right in the back of the head.
Right at head level.
Yeah.
So this one, you've made some room for the choir by opening up the back.
Absolutely.
But you couldn't come out too far, you wouldn't have any room here.
We went vertical.
So you went vertical and the
Cantilevered it out.
Cantilever, yes.
And it's brilliantly designed in that the pedal division is over here at the head of the stairs, so that's not right behind the singers. They don't have any pipe speaking right behind them. And the room supports the sound enough that there's no difficulty with, singing with an accompaniment. The other divisions are up here over our heads, and it just speaks into the room brilliantly, and in fact, this looks so much better. It really emphasizes this rose window.
Right, that was the other thing. You couldn't cover that up, so you had to have the middle open up. One of the things that impresses me is anytime you have some sort of concession, like the console needs to be out here and there's some distance with a tracker organ, is usually the action suffers. Yet here, it is just the most beautiful, snappy action that I've ever felt, I think, on an organ this size.
We had a well-known organ builder, after being here for recitals, said, I could never build an action like that.
It's amazing how it's almost like a harpsichord. It's so snappy, but it's not heavy.
It's not heavy. And the interesting thing is, many times on older trackers, the more stops you pulled on, the action would get heavier and heavier. You don't notice any difference on this. But with proper balancing and everything, I'm sure that in their 4 manual instruments, you don't have an appreciable change in the finger pressure that you need.
It's good. They're an amazing builder to be able to do that.
Yeah. So, there is the works in the console. And these are the keys and the stop action. And when you press a key, these move. And then down here's where the movement is translated into horizontal to run all the way under this floor.
There's our swell shoe activator, and this is the tensioner that gives you some pressure. That rod connects down there, and it's graphite, and those 2 pieces of wood squeeze that bar as it goes up and down. And these are for regulating our action. And to be honest, I actually don't know how they work. Maybe somebody from Juget-Sinclair will fill us in on what those pneumatics do.
One of the unique things about these trackers, supports that are running horizontal, is in olden times they often supported the tracker moving horizontal from above with a little thread. Well, as those get older and that, many times they would break, and also the wood has the capacity then with moisture changes to kind of warp one way or another. So these guys got brilliant, and they made a very delicate support from beneath, like a little fork. So the tracker sits down in there and it just rocks back and forth like this. So the tracker is supported, and it's also not in a situation where it's going to easily warp or get out of alignment. So their engineering, I mean, it's all physics. The engineering in this is absolutely wonderful.
Okay.
Now, one of the things about designing an organ is you have to be able to get to it, to tune it, and make repairs. So these builders were brilliant. They put the whole cabinet side opens up, the whole chamber. Once again, you can see the trackers here, the ones that came across here, then have to transition into a vertical movement here. And then once again, they have to transition into a horizontal movement to go under the, open up the toe of the pipe. So this is the pedal division. Now, part of the accessibility is these panels here all lift out. So when you take these 4 panels out, it's quite exposed, and for tuning, you can easily get in there. The other thing they did, which is wonderful, is these taller pipes are literally hung. They're supported from above with a wire on a little bit of a spring, which takes the weight off the toe. Chromatic scale.
So this is going into the grate. We walk in underneath where there's no pipes in here, so there's no pipe speaking directly into anyone who might be singing. We do have a ladder that goes up to the grate. Power supplies are on for the stop action are on this side. And we have the roller board for the grate. Usually roller boards are found in the console, but because the action comes straight out of the console and divides over here, then the roller board needs to be in here. So that's the trackers coming up from the floor and then splitting and going up to the chest, which is above us. So it's going up into the grate. It's nice and brightly lit up here. The chest is divided. We have the first 15 notes of the bass to the front, and then from there to the treble at the back of the case. Our 8-foot trumpets right in front, and then the mixtures behind that. Then we see our 4-foot flute, the 8-foot stopped flute, which is wood in the bass, and then it goes to metal caps, the chimney flute there. And then looks like the 4-foot principal and the 8-foot principal are back there. And then
There are racks on the facade pipes, but they're also supported from above with hooks on springs. The tubing for these front facade pipes is all wood. A lot of builders for trackers will use paper tubing, but this is all built into the case. It's pretty amazing.
So this console was designed so it's nice and low, so you can see the choir easily as well.
Right. It's a very comfortable way things are laid out. With the pistons are split, so you've got pistons here on the left. You've got general pistons there, and on the right, which allows you to make piston changes depending on which hand is free to do that, which is brilliantly done. 10 pistons, generals, and then 6 manual ones. This does have a sequencer in it. Frankly, I've never used it, but that's where you can set up a whole long piece, let's say, and make all the changes by just pressing a button. And the same button just advances it.
Well, Bob, thank you so much for showing us this organ today.
I'm delighted.
If you'd like to hear more of it, of course, there is an album recorded by Dr. Barbara Radke, who is now the organist here
Yes.
and director of music. This is titled Confluence, and it's on the Raven label. It features a number of works, Bach and Brahms, and more Bach and Franck, and lots of things. This organ can do just about anything.
Yeah,
Well, there'll be a link down in the description where you can purchase a copy for yourself if you want. Remember, you can subscribe to our channel to get updates when we have new videos. We do have some more videos coming up. And remember, you can always find streaming audio music on our 3 channels 24 hours a day at organlive.com, Positively Baroque, and The Organ Experience. I'm Brent Johnson. Thanks for watching.